patiently listening.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Then listen.
Okay, so I'm asking you. See, look, if it was me on this side, if it was me,
Do your thing in it.
if it was me on that side, and he was asking me, ask me at any point, do I condemn any of the innocent civilians being killed? I'll say completely condemn it, and I'll fight against it. Do you understand? Oh, bro, can you calm down for a second, yeah?
We all eat, we all sleep, we all shit, we all believe in a God.
Alright.
Man, I agree.
We're not killing no one, we're not doing no harm.
I agree.
Why are you not arguing? Why?
Okay. So as we were saying, yeah, Joseph,
Just so you know,
Joseph,
You don't get touched.
Joseph, this is an incident which there's no controversy around it. I've picked that incident, I've hand-picked that incident in particular.
I'll hug you.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, my friend, yeah, thank you.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you, my friend.
It's all entertainment here.
All right, cool.
First time I've been here, how come?
Okay, Akhi, you can have a discussion on that. You one camera there. I was saying to you, I've handpicked that particular incident before the establishment of Israel. Because why? Because it wasn't a state attack. You can't say there was a state involved. There was no state involved.
The British state.
No, there was no Israeli state at that time. Yeah, it was 1946. This is 2 years before the establishment of Israel. I've handpicked it because not only Palestinians were killed, but white British English people were killed. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fine. But they were in a hotel. Those individuals were shot, dead, killed by Jewish individuals who believed in a Zionist state. I keep asking him, is this an act of terrorism? He says no, which to me shows that he does not mind casualties, so long as those casualties are not Jewish casualties. That's what you're saying.
Okay, so now
that's what you're saying.
Me to respond.
Go ahead.
In my words. So as I categorically told you last week, and you can laugh at my answer all you like, but this is the reason. In the Holocaust, Jews were slaughtered.
What's that got to do with what I'm saying about?
Exactly, you have to learn to listen if you want to know the other perspective. You can't just dictate the terms of the
Go ahead.
Because they're uncomfortable. Jews were slaughtered in the Holocaust. As the Holocaust was going on, the British released the 1939 White Paper, the Peel Commission, which limited Jewish immigration to mandatory Palestine. Yeah?
And no, 75,000 immigration for the next 10 years.
10,000 per year, no more than 10,000.
75,000 for the next 10 years.
They limited the Arab migration swelled. Arabs moved, which absolutely contradicts the argument you were talking about Arabs being. You talked about Arabs being removed before the creation of the State of Israel. Anyone who studies the actual censuses will see that in 1882 there were 270,000 Muslim Arabs, and then by 1946 that had swelled to 1.26 million, according to.
So what? That's none of your business. That's not your country. So what if their population is increasing?
Okay.
So what if their so what?
To explain
why is it swelling? Why is it a wound?
Mohammed,
it's just population increase.
You have to listen. You asked the question. I'm answering.
I'm just asking. Do you condemn that terrorism or not?
You have to learn to listen.
I am, but you're not answering the question.
I'm trying to answer the question.
No, you're not.
In my words.
You're talking about the Holocaust. I'm not asking you about the Holocaust. We both agree that the Holocaust was a disastrous thing.
Why were the Irgun and Haganah against the British?
Because they weren't giving them a national homeland.
They were against the British because they capped immigration.
To 75,000.
Jews were slaughtered in the Holocaust, and they wanted to rescue the Jews. That's why they were fighting the British. That's why they targeted the military headquarters of the British in mandatory Palestine.
So does that justify Irgun actually teaming up with the Nazis?
Mate, stay on subject.
No, hold on, because you're now justifying, not even calling a terrorist, a group of people who are not only terrorists by almost everyone.
How did they collaborate with the Nazis? You tell me how
they collaborated with the Nazis. There's many documents.
How?
In the World War, there were communications with Irgun and the Nazis, because they both had a very similar agenda. Both of them wanted an establishment of Israel so that they can get all the Jews out of that region and into another place.
The Nazis wanted to establish Israel.
Well, they wanted to get the Jews out of their country, didn't they?
Mate, literally.
Yes or no? They had a very similar agenda. The Jews, and that's why I believe, and I'm going to make a very controversial statement today, yeah? I believe here, this is the irony of all, mother of all ironies. You know why? Because you keep talking about the Holocaust. Well, actually, I can tell you 5 or 10 things which are very similar between Nazis and Zionists. One of them is that they both stress an ethnic identity as a main reasoning for their existence. Number 2, their homeland is based on ethnic national basis. Number 3, they both use ethnic. Hold on. Number 3, they both use ethnic cleansing as a policy. Number 4, they don't tolerate minorities and they pretend to play with democracy. That's what I believe.
Mate,
so it's very similar. So just because your family were attacked by the Holocaust, you should, my friend, be in a better position now. Say, okay, well, I can see the horrors of the Holocaust. I don't want to transpose that into another community.
And this is exactly the problem with people like you, Mohammed.
What's the problem? I'm making this factual statement.
Because you look at the world with such twisted and corrupt
Why is it corrupt? It's just subjective statement from your behalf.
Okay, so let's just compare what you said, yeah?
Yes, go ahead.
Palestinians, what's their claim? Are they an ethnic cultural
What are you talking about, man? What's their claim? It's not monolithic.
They're
not a monolithic entity.
And neither are the Zionists.
Well, I'm not saying that they are, but the Zionists. No, hold on. I didn't say
Zionism and Nazism is the same.
No, I didn't say that. You have to listen to exactly what I say because you can't be academic otherwise. I said that there are similarities between Nazism and Zionism, and some of those similarities entail that Nazism stresses an ethnic, nationalistic base for its existence. Number two, that they stress that over and above everything else. You've got The Friend and the Foe, Carl Schmitt, a Nazi, very similar to Bechin. Read both of their works, they're very similar. The point is...
How are they similar? You tell me about
Okay, so Carl Schmitt, who's a Nazi philosopher, who wrote in the 30s and 40s, he talked about identifying the friend and the foe. And identifying the friend and the foe, and in a way, he criticized what he saw was a pluralistic liberalism, all these kind of things, because of what he saw was the corrupted elements of society that could emerge as a result of it. Nazism is very similar to that, and obviously because that is Nazism, Carl Schmitt was a Nazi. Yeah. Zionism is very similar to this as well.
You said Begin, didn't you?
Yeah, Begin wrote a book called The Revolt. Yeah.
Have you read it?
I've read it. Yeah.
Okay. So me too.
So as soon as let's see if you've read it. What does he say the first time when you open the book, page 2 or 3? What does he say?
I don't know what he
says. So let me tell you what he says. Because when you read a book, the first thing you read should be the first thing you remember. Yeah. In psychology, they call it primacy effect and recency effect. The first thing you read should stick in your memory. The first thing he talks about in an interesting way is hate. He talks about hating people. This is what would then become Prime Minister of Israel in the 80s. He talks about hating people. And what does he talk about? How hate is a beautiful thing in some instances. And why is he talking about hate? Because he wants his Zionist followers to hate the Palestinian minorities so that they can be more motivated to go into the villages, which we now know we have documents of. He had, and other gang members, I call them gang members, had village files to go into their villages and attack all these people. In his 4th and 5th and 6th pages, he talks about going into the villages and attacking the civilians, very crudely, talking about actually his eyewitness testimonies. What happened in the villages? How many villages were there that were uprooted and overturned? 400 to 600 villages were completely demolished on the face of the earth. The urban character of Palestine was uprooted and completely changed because of this whole plan that was happening throughout the 30s and 40s. What you're talking about, sir, is basically Nazi policies in action in Palestine. But whereas you keep talking about it, oh, my family has this and this and that, and you're laughing about this, you don't want to acknowledge it for the Palestinians. That's why I believe you are a racial supremacist in the same way. No, I believe you are.
What have I ever said about Palestinians?
You've never once said there's been any kind of ethnic cleansing. You've never once acknowledged that the blockade is against human rights. You've never once
said there was ethnic cleansing.
You've never once spoken about the settlements being against international law and actually a breach of the human rights of those individuals. You've never once talked about the idea. You've never once said that the Israeli Defense Forces have completely taken the rights to dehumanize human beings that are Palestinians, killed some of those. You've never once, even Amnesty has a whole, go on Amnesty.com, go on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you'll see they have a whole report on this thing. Yeah. They talk about how many people have been, I'm not me, brutalized and tortured by the IDF and the Israeli government. Why do you not want to actually acknowledge this? These are not Muslim groups. All of these groups are coming to the same conclusion, but you, my friend, are putting your hands in your pockets, pretending no one is being killed except for Jews. And you keep saying you're laughing and you're dying and this and that and anti-Semitic.
Mate, you're literally arguing with yourself.
No, you don't want to acknowledge. Do you acknowledge the fact that the Israeli Defense Forces have been the actors and the reason for a lot of the torture that has taken place with the Palestinian communities? Do you accept that or not?
So your definitions are
yes or no?
No.
Okay, no. So that's what I'm talking about. You don't mind if the Israeli defense, you have a complete bias, a psychological.
Are you going to let me talk?
You're steeped in bias.
You're
steeped in bias.
You've literally spoken for 15 minutes solid.
No, I haven't. Come on, man. We can quickly look at that. Go ahead and say something.
Okay. So to respond to each one of your points, first and foremost, settlements. First and foremost, settlements, yeah? You've never been able to tell me where Palestine begins and ends as a nation. So for all I know, the settlement for you...
Where does Israel begin and end? Where does Israel begin and end?
ask a question? What
Hold
about
on.
kilo settlement?
Sorry. Where does Israel begin and
What
end?
about kilo settlement?
Where does Israel begin and end?
Okay, so again, I asked you a question, and then in typical style, you flipped it back to me.
Okay, no
I will
problem.
give you my definitions, but I want to know for you.
What is Israel?
Where does Israel begin and end? If
You're
we
asking
talk
me?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. You're the Israeli Lovey.
I'm saying. Talk about
Hold on.
settlements when you don't know where the settlement.
No,
is.
hold on. Israel. Hold on. You're saying where does Palestine? In my opinion,
You've taken Palestinian land in Gilo. You've thrown
Mate,
it up.
mate,
Is that
seriously,
legitimate? Answer that question.
We're trying to
Okay,
talk,
this is what we're talking
and
about.
then everyone jumps in. It can't. We don't get it. So
Okay.
literally, you mentioned settlements,
Yeah.
not
So
me.
I believe the whole of Israel is a settlement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The whole of Israel is-
Yeah.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
finally got to the truth.
It's a settlement.
So for you, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether it's Tel Aviv,
It's
or
a settlement.
It's Gilo, or it's Hebron,
But you're not
or it's
answering the
Elat.
question.
It's
What
all.
about
I'll
What do you
answer.
mean?
For you, it's all settlements.
So what about Gilo?
No, but specifically here, when we talk about post 1967, there are specific international law-defined settlements. Now I'm saying.
Okay. Those international law-defined
Yeah,
settlements.
yes,
just
yes.
so we understand
Yes,
definition.
West Bank, in the West Bank, before
Gilo,
9.
the outskirts of Bethlehem. I've seen it with my own eyes. I was married to a Palestinian. They pointed at the damn land in front of my eyes. They said, "See those cranes over there? We can't go. We'll get shot if we come
Jerusalem,
any further."
he's like the man
Outside
said.
Gilo. Answer Gilo. That's on the outskirts of Bethlehem.
So I'll happily answer, but you then
Yeah.
I'll answer, but then you let us.
And
get
then you
on
have
with
the
it.
Gaza Strip, which obviously they've come out good. So that's it.
So again, to understand the
Were you pro or against the movement out of a Gaza Strip? Just for my.
the disengagement from
Yeah.
Gaza, I was pro the disengagement.
Oh, you're happy with that?
Yeah.
So why are you happy with the same thing with West Bank?
Mohammed, the difficulty is you've never actually asked me.
I'm
what my
asking you,
views
are you happy with that?
You've just told me what I believe.
Okay, so tell me now, why do you not want to condemn the illegal, from an international relations perspective, illegal settlement
Mohammed, just
of a community of
can you
people?
answer my question.
Go ahead. Can you keep?
What other borders you're talking about when you're talking about an illegal settlement? That's all.
According to the UN, we're talking about the settlements in the West Bank.
So what are the borders
and
of
Jerusalem.
the West Bank and Jerusalem?
What do you want me to go into details with actual
Yeah.
provinces? No, man, you get a map out and do that work yourself. Get a map and do what you want to talk about, like exactly where it starts and where it ends.
Because
my
it's
friend.
really, if you say that you're
What are you
building-
talking about? I'm
Just
saying the
Mohammed,
West. I'm just making.
Listen,
Go
I'll
ahead.
explain
Go
why.
ahead.
If you accuse me of building in your garden, you have to be able to tell me where your garden begins and ends.
Okay, so all right. So I believe the whole of Palestine was a garden which was built upon.
Okay, so for you it's all in illegal.
After
settlement.
1967, of
So
course.
why are you worrying yourself with the
No,
United Nations?
no, because I'm saying that there has to be
Because
some
you're
kind of.
disingenuous.
No, I'm not disingenuous. Okay, look, I'm telling you now. I'm telling you now that there has to be some kind of mutual ground. I'm saying, forget about my beliefs and your beliefs. According to even international organs, yeah, like the United Nations, you don't want to accept any authority except
I'm
for
asking you, what borders are the
What
United
bo-
Nations talking about?
the post 1967 ones,
The post, no, the pre-1967 borders.
the 1948 ones.
The 1949 armistice agreement with Jordan.
Yeah, okay. So we're talking
And
about the
what
West Bank.
was that?
You keep asking the same question. West Bank, them parts of Jerusalem, and obviously the Gaza Strip before 2005.
What were they? What
I've
were
just
they?
said it now, man.
No, but what were
What
they?
you keep
They were-
asking the same questions,
they were
man?
a temporary peace treaty between Jordan and Israel, yeah?
Who said that?
The Jordanians when they signed it, and the
No,
Israelis
hold
when
on,
they
hold
signed
on.
it. Okay,
Hold on,
anybody can Google the
Oh, hold on,
1949 armistice
hold on.
and see
Hold
that
on,
both
hold
no, you're not interrupting. See that both the Jordanians and the Israelis agreed that this was a temporary ceasefire line. If you
Wait, hold on,
actually
hold on,
visited
hold on, hold
there, you can see the bullet holes in the
So-
wall
so do you
where
be-
the Jordanians and the Israelis
So,
were shooting at
if
each other
that's the case,
in the old city.
so you don't believe that what you can win from war, as you've put it in the previous debate, is that which you can live on, yeah? So in that case, you should leave the whole of Israel. What? Because the 1948 war won you the most land. So if you're talking about what war gets...
What are you talking about? I've never said anything like that.
You've said this before, yeah?
No,
You have said this before,
I
you have said this
You
before.
can trade land for peace, which has been a policy of Israel. They gave Sinai.
What do you mean? It's not your land. It's not your land, my friend.
Why is it for you?
It's
People
not your-
like- why is
Sinai
it
was
people
not
like
your
you?
country.
Will you not tolerate
Si-
a Jewish country?
My friend, listen. He keeps saying Sinai is his country. When was Sinai the
was
property of Jewish people?
They
When?
built settlements there for
When?
10 years.
Listen. When was? I'm asking you a
In
simple
the
question.
70s, there were settlements. There were
The
Jewish.
listen to me. Before the 70s, before the 1973 war, before the 1966 war, I'm asking a simple question. When was Sinai the property of Jewish people?
It wasn't before.
There you have it. So how can you say you're giving back land that you never owned?
Because they were invaded,
So who was invaded?
Israel was invaded. They repelled. And they
So what? So they captured the land.
Yes.
And so you're saying that you could do that in war.
That's how every single nation.
Not in the modern world, my friend. Not in the modern world.
What are you
not in the 20th and 21st century, my friend. Not maybe the 20th. Maybe not. Definitely not in the 21st. That is not what the United Nations was built for.
Which states
That's not the whole point. So you're not playing by the rules.
Name some of the states that have been born in the 21st century or the 20th century.
Kosovo.
There was a massive conflict in Kosovo. It was.
So what? So you just asked me to name a state. I've done it.
But so I'm telling you, conflict. This is how. And
South Sudan.
I'm not for expansionism. I'm not for expansionism.
There's a few.
I'm for giving back land.
But you're saying give it back land. It's not your land if you're not for expansionism.
If you lose
you're all over the place. You're contradicting yourself.
If you launch a war,
you're contradicting.
You're an idiot.
You give something.
So hey, listen to that last. Listen to that last. Thank you. Listen to that last statement. Yeah. Perfect. Hold on. That's no. What he just said there. Let's refute him. He said if you lose a war and lose land, you're an idiot.
If you launch a war
and you lose. Okay, fine.
One second, brother. Maybe Islam is.
Law of the jungle. No problem. So
can we just let us debate because it gets so hard when everyone else jumps in.
Just listen. Maybe Islam losing a war, but they win it in Turkey dialogue always.
Maybe Islam loses a war.
In a war, yeah.
So basically, he believes in. So the colonial settlement that is Israel.
Israel is not a colonial settlement.
Oh yes, it is.
This is the problem. You want to talk about colonialism? How did Arabs?
We're not talking about the medieval period.
No. We're talking
about the present day.
Dictate the terms of the debate.
Because we're not talking about medieval politics. That's a different structure.
Why do you think Iran is involving itself in Syria, Lebanon,
I don't care about Iran.
Yemen?
You can go and speak to an Iranian diplomat about that.
Saudi Arabia is involved.
I don't care about it. Go and speak to a Saudi Arabian diplomat. I'm not here to defend those individuals. What now?
I'm talking about Islam.
What? Seriously, what? I'm not here to defend Egypt, Saudi.
Who are the Jews colonizing?
Palestinians.
No, they're not. They're not enforcing Hebrew on the Palestinians.
Oh yeah? So there's not talk of a Jewish state?
There's freedom of religion in Israel.
Oh yeah.
No, 400 mosques.
So is there freedom of speech and expression in Israel?
Absolutely.
Oh, is that why everyone, almost all the historians and academics that speak against Israel are not Norman Finkelstein?
What does Norman Finkelstein say? What does he say about freedom of religion?
No, he's banned from Israel.
He's
banned from Israel.
It's got nothing to do with religion.
It's done, my friend. Now you said name one. It's done. What about Ilan Pape? He's banned. He's banned as well.
If you can't hold a logical thought, that's not my fault.
He said name one. I gave him two.
You said there's religious. We're talking religious freedom. Norman Finkelstein.
No, we still talking about expression.
Both.
You said freedom of expression. That's what I said. I said freedom of expression. What are you saying now? Seriously, what are you saying now?
Okay, I misheard. I thought.
So is there freedom of expression in Israel in the same way as there is, for example, in the UK?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, if I were to attack,
was Lovin Southern banned from the UK?
No, hold on.
Did you laugh at that?
I don't even know about that.
No. Maybe it was Ali.
What I laugh about is my own freedom of expression, my friend.
But no, seriously, did the UK?
It doesn't seem like you only want freedom.
Did the UK?
Yeah, I don't care about that.
So is that freedom of expression?
Of course there is. Is that because she was not? Hold on. First and foremost, she was not a citizen of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, Norman Finkelstein.
Yes, he is, my friend. Ilan Pape is a citizen of Israel.
I said Norman Finkelstein.
Ilan Pape is a citizen of Israel. He was born in Israel, and he's a citizen of Israel. He's banned from it.
He renounced his citizenship.
No, he wasn't. He was banned from it.
No, he renounced.
See, that's what you want everyone to believe, isn't it? Go on. Imagine now I attack the British government, and they not allow me back into the UK. I not attack them physically, obviously. I'm talking criticism.
People can go.
So here's what I'm saying. You only want freedom of expression so long as it serves your cause. When freedom of expression is academically put to you, that attacks Zionism, exposes it.
Mohammed.
You know, it's not freedom of expression anymore.
Do you
you support that, by the way?
Do I support Israel?
Banning Ilan Pape.
Personally, no.
You don't. So they're wrong. Yes or no? They're wrong.
By my definition, yes.
Yeah. So Israel's wrong.
So by my definition, I believe there should be complete freedom of speech.
Okay, good.
And I don't.
Finally, it's the first. You know how difficult that was. Difficult to criticize your own government's policies. It's unbelievable.
Government, I'm British.
No, but you're part of the Israeli advocacy movement, so you are representing the Israeli government.
I'm not representing the.
So what you represent? You're advocating
myself in the Israel advocacy movement.
So what is the advocacy movement? What does it do? Go on, tell me what it does.
Promotes Israel in the UK.
So okay, I'm now telling you that it's good that you actually not done that and you've criticised Israel. Now your funders.
No. My funders. What are you talking about?
Now your funders not gonna like that.
Funders?
I don't know. You tell me.
This is a typical like nonsense we get.
You have a donate thing.
I've had a donate button which is at a total.
So you have funders, my friend. Yeah. If you have donate, you have funders. That's how it works.
A total of £30 has flown into the organisation.
Yeah.
I spent thousands of pounds on it.
You had £30 come in.
And I spent thousands.
Okay, let's make that transparent, my friend. Let's make that transparent. You're part of a movement. Okay, if you're saying £30 has come in, I would like to see the money for that. I want to see the transparency in it.
What does that have to do with you?
No, because it's an organisation. You're claiming that only £30 has come in.
What does that have to do with you?
It's part of pluralism and democracy.
What are you talking about,
transparency, yes?
What on earth are you talking about?
Well, transparency of organisations that claim to do certain things, like charities, for example.
It's not a charity.
No, but I'm saying like.
It's a YouTube channel. What are you talking about?
Is that all it is?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right. yeah, but £30, only £30 flown in.
You're a lunatic. Like, do any of the Dawah channels disclose how much money they get donated to them, if any? No, of course not.
Maybe they should. I don't know. I
want to something serious, because we always get accused of colonialism, yeah?
Of course you're a colonialist.
Can you let me actually...
But do you know what?
Mohammed! Instead of shouting, let me speak. You always shout me down, bro. You always shout me down. I can shout as well. But just because you shout, it doesn't make you look right. Let me. I actually
I'm going to be on your side. I'm going to be on your side. Look, I am Muslim. I'm from Syria. Netanyahu is much better than Bashar al-Assad.
I agree with that one.
Okay?
We both agree on that one.
I think that's something all of us agree with.
You agree with that?
Bashar al-Assad is not a good guy. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. No one here disagrees with that, yeah?
Is anything going to stop violence, that question?
No.
So let's stay off Syria. Colonialism.
Stay off Palestine.
No, let's stay colonialism, yeah?
Yes, colonialism.
I get so tired.
What is colonialism? Define it.
So colonialism is where you have a powerful entity, a state, an empire, that creates a colony, which then
What's a colony?
A colony is when you create effectively, a settlement is a good word, a settlement of people from that.
This guy's just digging a hole for himself, my friend.
We'll see if I am. We'll see if I am, Mohammed. We'll see if I am actually digging a hole when we actually look at the definitions, yeah?
Yeah, you're doing it now, go on.
So let's listen. We'll use your language. We'll use your language.
Go on.
When you have an empire like the British Empire, it creates a settlement, or a colony as it's commonly called, in say North Africa or anywhere in the world, which they then look
military personnel and
which they then look to spread the
economic
culture of that colony into that region, and then they rip out the resources and send it back to the host nation.
That sounds like Israel to me.
Okay, so let's explore.
Is that Israel?
So let's explore.
Does Israel do that or not?
So let's explore this.
Come on.
And you have to be quiet and you have to not interrupt.
No problem.
You have to let me.
Tell me why that's not Israel. Go on.
Okay. So if you look at Arab colonialism, and I'll answer with Israel, but I'm going to start in my own way. If you look at Arab colonialism, it's spread out from various different caliphates, be it based in Iran, be it based in Saudi Arabia.
It wasn't really colonialism because it wasn't a colony. It was a complete taking over of land.
You have to listen.
They took it over.
No, it was an actual. They would create colonies there first.
Like who?
So in the Umayyad dynasty.
It wasn't colonies. It was a takeover. It was a takeover.
No, you actually don't. They didn't actually.
What do you mean? I don't know.
You clearly don't.
It's called the Umayyad, anyways. And they took over the
Umayyad.
Yeah,
one of the.
The Umayyad.
Not the Ummah. The Ummah is any of the caliphate.
No, Umayyad.
Oh, Ummah is in the caliph. Yeah.
No, Umayyads are called the Umayyad.
Okay.
Yes.
In Arabic.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the Abbasids or the Abbasid. I don't know how you guys say it. But it wasn't colonies. They took over the land. They took it over.
They conquered the land.
They conquered the land.
Yeah.
That's it.
But then what they did, they moved military Arab forces into those regions. Yeah.
Okay.
But then it wasn't until generations after that they began actually, for instance, they would spread Islam. Islam wasn't the first thing they spread.
I don't know about this. I mean, we're talking about medieval period now. We're talking about the contemporary period.
It's fine.
By the way,
I'm allowed to talk on my terms. I listen to you, and I don't tell you how to answer. So you do the courtesy of not telling me how to answer.
Okay, tell me why Israel is not a colonial power.
Mohammed, can you let me answer in my own words?
Yes, please, go ahead. Okay. But don't go around the world.
No, I have to go around the world.
You do.
We have to look at examples of colonialism. We have to look at examples of historical colonialism.
You don't need to
understand.
Look at contemporary examples. Look at contemporary examples.
So when you had the colonial based out, for instance, you had Mecca and Medina. The tribute that was
look at contemporary examples.
Look at contemporary examples. The terms.
Why are you looking at medieval examples?
I'm not going to be bullied by you. I'm going to answer in my own way.
Okay, go ahead.
If you don't like it, don't listen.
You still got bullied. That's not bullied. You're not being bullied, my friend.
You are, because you're trying to dictate how we talk. And I'm saying no.
You keep saying bullied. It's
comical,
isn't
it? That's what you're trying to do.
I'm not bullying you.
You're trying to dictate how I answer.
How do you define being bullied?
It's when somebody tries to exert force coercion to...
Where's my force coercion? I'm not using any force coercion right now.
Okay. Let me answer. Oh my
God. Go on, man.
Let me answer. Okay, so
It seems like so Israel are bullies.
When they conquered Alexandria, they said they captured 40,000 or 10,000, I can't remember which, whole tax-paying Jews, which would then.
What are you talking about?
Arab colonialism.
Which ones?
This is in the Umayyad dynasty.
Okay, give me the reference for that, please.
Okay, this is in. I got this from a book called Islamic Imperialism by Ephraim Karsh. And Ephraim Karsh.
Okay. So that's a secondary source material. So what have you looked at the primary source?
So I can pull up the primary.
No, you don't need to. Don't waste my time with this. Sorry, but what I'm going to say is that you don't compare medieval empires with contemporary 20th century.
What you've been doing.
When?
Whenever you've quoted Ilan Pape or anyone like that,
Go on.
You say it's from documents that you've never read.
I've read them.
No, you haven't.
Okay, tell me which ones and I'll tell you what it says on them.
So, you tell me what you've read.
So, for example, today the documents I've talked about is the Chaim Weizmann or Chaim Weizmann document. That's the primary source material. There were letters that were sent from Chaim, that were sent from.
I'm talking about the 1998 papers you were talking about.
1998 papers that were published by the Israeli military.
What did you read?
And it shows about the commands that were given in the villages and all these kind of things.
Did you read?
I don't know the names of the papers. They've got numbers on them.
Because I'm saying you also, like me.
The 1998. You can Google that though.
Unfortunately, I can't.
The question.
You're avoiding the questions.
Okay, so let's get back on it instead of going around frame.
Well, he's talking about medieval Islamic empires.
Okay, so let's fast forward to another colonial empire.
Go on.
Let's fast forward to the British Empire.
Okay, that's more like it.
How did the British colonize most of the known world?
Well, like for example, when they went into India, 1607 or whatever it is, and they put like a economic trading post, and then they expanded from that, and then they took it, and then they actually military the wars like the.
Where did the resources that they rip out? Where did they go?
Went back to the empire.
So they were a colony of Britain, yeah.
Yes.
So when you talk about colonialism from Israel, yeah.
Yes.
What is Israel a colony of?
What do you mean colony of? What does that mean?
So what is
That's
Israel?
You're using semantics.
What is Israel
does this?
Colony
Israel.
of?
I'm saying to you. Let me say to you. The same way that Britain took over India and takes their resources and minerals, yeah, and did wars and conducted many wars like the three Mysore wars and the Maratha war and the Sikh war and all these wars that they did, the Sikh Empire war and all these wars that they did, the Plassey Battle of Plassey and all them things. The same way that the British did that in India is the same way as the Israelis are doing that in Palestine.
Okay, so let's stop and recheck. So when Britain was doing that in India, where was the wealth they were ripping out going? Where was these Indian colonies a colony of? They were a colony of Britain.
The British Empire, yeah.
So I'm asking you, if Israel is a colony...
I'm not saying Israel is a colony. I don't say Israel is a colony. It's just a colonial power.
Okay, so where are the colonies that Israel's created?
Okay, so for example, the settlements in the occupied territories. These are pseudo colonies, yes. And you have also the Gaza Strip until 2005, yes. And then even after 2005, the blockade and stuff that's happening within it. And then you have also obviously the whole of the state of Israel up from 1948 up until this present day. Those places where Arabs lived, to put it bluntly, towns where Arab lived, they were overturned. Those 600 to 800 or whatever it is, villages and towns, the urban centers. The fact that they were reformed, regenerated, and made into Israeli-occupied places, that is what you call colonialism. In fact, it's more than colonialism. It's worse than colonialism.
So
I believe that the British...
Is Pakistan a colony?
Of what?
Exactly. How was Pakistan formed?
This is a different question.
It's not, because you're talking about a civil war between two people that had both lived in that land for centuries.
First and foremost,
Palestinians and Jews have lived side by side.
Hold on. India only recently became known as India. You know,
Palestine has never been known as Palestine.
No, hold on. It doesn't matter about semantics. Hold on.
You just said India.
Well, hold on. Let me explain to you, please. Yeah. Before the colonial invasions of the British Empire, you had different regional areas of India. So you had, for example, where the Mughal Empire was. Yeah. You had in southern places like called Mysore, the area of Mysore. You have a northern area. You have a Sindh, whatever. You have all these areas coming together, which now in the vernacular they call India. Do you get it? But really and truly, if we're talking 300 or 400 years ago, there was no India on the map. There was no India on the map.
There was no Palestine on the map.
No, there was a Palestine on the map.
No, there wasn't.
Yes, there was. Yes, there was.
There was the Sanjak.
Hold on.
There was the Sanjak.
No, hold on. Let me tell you what there was on the map. If you look at any map of the Ottoman Empire, for example, when Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, they called it the Sham region. Okay, and that was it was called Sham.
Sham. And what's for the audience? What does Sham translate to?
Sham is a
Syria.
No. It's Levant. It translates to Levant. So the Sham region is a composite of different countries. Of them is Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and Palestine. So that's what it was known as.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Did Jews live there?
Yeah, they did.
So when it comes, no.
What are you talking about?
When it comes to self-determination,
not in that.
Why are you for the self-determination of Arabs and not Jews?
No, let me answer that question. So when you say the Jews lived there, we're talking about I'm not going to say a marginal minority, but it was a minority status. They had a minority, just like, for example...
Who was the majority of British mandatory Palestine given to?
No, we're not talking about British mandatory... No,
Jews were a minority, I agree.
Okay, good.
And Jews were given a tiny bit of land. They were given one of the smallest countries in the world. It's about the same size as Wales.
It depends on what time you're talking about, because